Hey guys, how are we all doing on this fine Sunday afternoon? In response to the issue of springs buckling and being horribly stiff and not very fun to use, I've decided to make a little takedown video so you can change the spring. What I'd recommend is getting an M120 spring and cutting it down so it's slightly longer than these stock springs. Now you can clearly see there, these are two that I took out of my own and this one, which are having problems. The one-off sniper build that we did initially had one just like this too. So it seems to be quite a common thing. If you're getting like a really stiff bolt that seems to keep getting stuck part of the way, that's why. So in order to get to it, first thing you want to do is remove the magazine. And I do apologise about all the shadows and everything. There's nothing I can do about it at the moment. Turn the rifle over to the left side. You got a little screw here, the trigger guard. Undo that one. Just keep all the screws with the parts, that way you don't get anything mixed up. I'll try and make this easy to follow for those of you that aren't confident with taking guns apart. You got another flathead here at the front of the trigger guard. So best thing to do is take that out, slot them all back in there. Stick that somewhere out of the way. Slide the rifle down to this band, just behind the sling swivel. You're going to undo that, because that's what's holding the top wood handguard section on. You don't need to take it all the way out, just loosen it. Turn the rifle over again. You've got the screw here and the sling swivel. Now you have to take this out because it's holding the barrel band in as well as the sling loop. Let's just pop that little screw out. Stick it in the swivel so it doesn't disappear on you. Then your barrel band, just pry that apart both sides and it'll open like a little clip like that. And now I think the rifle's getting a bit long here, so I'll just move the camera. Undo this flathead, which is on the left side of the nose cone. Turn the rifle upside down. Now behind this piling swivel you've got another flathead, just between that and the bayonet lug. Take that one out. Again, I really do apologise for the shadows, there's nothing I can do about it, I'm afraid. Put those to one side. Your nose cone will just slide off. Now you'll be able to take the bottom stock off and this top handguard will just slide forward and out like that. Alright, moving the rifle along then, back to the trigger guard area. What you now need to do is remove the spring guide stopper. So you see that little piece there? Putting downwards pressure on this so it will pop out. There you go. Before you put this back in, make sure you proper grease it up because that will make it easier in the future. Now lay that to one side. Pull your bolt back part of the way. Obviously the spring tension is now relieved. Now you'll be able to see here there is a little clip right there. That's what's holding that part of the nozzle on. To pull it back further, you want to pull down on this on the left side of the trigger box. That's the little detent which holds the cocking handle in its respective positions. So you just give that a little smack whilst holding that down so you can get this back. Now you want to pry this off, ideally with a tiny flathead. Mine seems to have disappeared off somewhere, so I'm going to use this pointy file. There you go, that's come off. Don't lose that, it's very important. Do not lose that. Put that safely somewhere. And now you'll be able to remove the bolt. Just hold on to this, pull the bolt back slightly, and you'll be able to wiggle it off and out of the chamber. So that's that part. Keep that with the C-clip Now if you hold down on that same little part again that I showed you, just pull the bolt back sharply until it comes out of here. You might need to bend the fake extractor bar slightly because it can be tight, which this one was. And that's also one of the problems that is causing the friction. You need to smoothen this part up. So now the cylinder's out. If you sort of bend this out, it kind of comes out like the real one does. Just sort of flips up there. Only on the real one this would be attached to the bolt head. Lay that down. And that's all you need now from the rifle. Now you've got the cylinder. Now this is basically just like a VSR. You're going to use some pliers in these two holes. So I will try and sort of do this on camera. Make sure you do push them in hard and don't scratch the nozzle, because if you don't push it hard enough you'll just strip the holes. You don't want them slipping out. So once you've got that started, just unscrew it, just like anything else with threads. Once you've got that off, that pops out. There's your cylinder head. This is your piston and mainspring, spring guide. This has a little FPS ring at the back, which is plastic. And that's it. That's as much as you need to do just to change your spring. So once you've done that, because I'm such a nice guy, I'll show you how to put it back together. So first, put your new spring on, slide it in, put the piston on, push that down so it clears the threads, and then you want to hold it in whilst you screw these on. I'll screw with my left hand to save my life. Right, there we go. Once you've done that up, just make sure it's on there tight, because it does sit slightly out of the cylinder. So again, hold it in like dagger position like this, pointing downwards at your palm. Make sure it's tight. Make sure there's no gap here, you want it flush, otherwise you're going to have leaky problems. Right, lift the rifle back up, get your fake extractor bar. Now that's going to go back in that same channel there. So hold it this way up. So that little lip there, which goes over the side of the receiver, just stick it in the top there and just sort of wiggle it about until it goes in. Some are tighter than others. This one's relatively easy. Then you want to push it forward slightly, not much, but just slightly so it sits like that, because otherwise getting the bolt back in is going to be a pain. I will do a video later on how to do all the mods, etc. Now, to get this back in, you're going to get it started there. You're going to pull the trigger so the little piece for the fake cocking piece can move. You're going to pull the little piece on the left side down again, over here. Just shove your bolt forward, and what you're going to do is turn it slightly to the left so the sear doesn't catch in the channel. And once you've got it as far forward as it will go, the actual trigger sear is in here, so you're going to need to push forward on that with your finger. You'll easily find it's the only thing poking up in front of the bolt now. Slide that forward. Once you got it about this far, try and keep that back. I'm trying to do this around the camera, it's not actually this awkward. Then just turn it until it clicks in place like that. Now you're going to want to pull it to about there again, because you need to reinstall this front end. So slide that back on, all the way back. There's a little groove there that's cut in the actual cylinder head for you to place this clip back on. So again, turn it to the side. Try it from this way. I'm trying to work around the camera tripod, so it's a little awful, but I want you guys to be able to see this. Right, she's back on. Make sure it doesn't come off. You're going to push your bolt forward and make sure this is actually going in the slot for it, which is there. So if you're pushing this forward and the bolt's like trying to cock now, don't worry about it. All that is the piston hitting on the seat. So if you shove this forward and down, and then dry fire, it'll push the piston back into place where it should be. Make sure this is all lined up, because now what you're going to do is put your spring guide stopper back in. This little part that's poking out that you were hitting it on to get it out has to be facing the left when the rifle is upside down. You can see that corresponding shape there, so just put that back in. Make sure you do dry fire the rifle if it's cocked, otherwise you won't be able to get it in. The tension will be very, very high. Just give it a few gentle taps till it goes back in like that. And that's it, it's all back in there. Before you put anything else on though, make sure that the action is working, and also make note of this one's a bit stiff still, it needs work. Make note of the cocking piece is working. Now you're going to put the stock back on. To get that ready, you need to put the top piece on first. So that just slides under the rear sight base and mates up with this part. Now something that's important is you'll have this part which is floating loosely on the barrel here. That sits in this corresponding channel there. So I'll just move that so you can see. There's a little channel there, right? It needs to sit there, pointing down from the rifle. So if the rifle's upside down, you need to be able to see this, because that's what's going to screw into the bottom half of the stock. Now you just shove your stock back on. You're going to push at the back first, at the trigger guard area. Just push down until it moves past. Just sort of lever it up and down until it's in its happy spot. There you go. She's in. Make sure this is in its channel that I showed you, otherwise you won't be able to push these two bits together. Once you squeeze those together, make sure that there's not a gap between the wood, because that's how you know that the screw's actually lined up with the threads. And when you start screwing, you'll see it start to recede into the stock. And just keep going. Don't over tighten it, just have it hand tight. When you do put the barrel band back on, just make sure that the recess here, the recessed out area for the flathead screw, is on the left side of the gun. Squeeze that together until there's only like a slight gap, because now you're going to put this back on. Now the wider portion faces the right side of the rifle, so you're going to put it in like that. Just start doing your screw up slightly, turn the rifle over, do that back up. Now you're going to put your nose cone back on. Very easy, just make sure the wood's together, slide it on until the hole on the bottom for the screw and the hole on the top line up. Just give it a shove and it'll go on. Put this bottom one in first and get it started. But with anything like this where you've got a vertical and a horizontal point of contact, don't do it up too tight. Just make sure that they're all in there first and that they are threading, because otherwise you can move the position of the holes and then you're going to destroy the threads in the wood, because you are screwing into wood, remember. So make sure you get it in at the right angle or you're going to damage it. Again, just get that hand tight, it doesn't have to be silly tight. Then you just do up the other one, so then it's on there nice and secure. The last step is of course the trigger guard. Best way to put this on, because it does tend to sort of rock back and forth like a seesaw. The way to keep this in place is just push it in so it's in like that, and then on the left side of the rifle this small longer screw, just put it in like that, just to keep the back in place, but don't do it up. Put the large one there in the front end. You might have to apply downward pressure if it doesn't line up so well. Once it's gotten started, she's in there. Before you do it up really tight, put a bit of pressure on the trigger guard. You can do the little one up. Do it hand tight again, make sure the front is hand tight. Pop your magazine back in. And that is it. That is your disassembled cylinder and reassembled in turn. If you're having one of those issues I mentioned, it's most likely due to the spring. The polishing of the parts improves the bolt, but the main problem is the springs, it seems, from what I've worked on currently. So, I hope that was helpful, guys. Thanks very much for watching.